Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope. Today we're going to take a look at my table predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. And to make it slightly FPL relevant, we're going to talk about the 3 best FPL options for each and every team in the Premier League. So we're starting off with Sheffield United at 20. I think they are the worst team in the league. I think they have the weakest squad in the league. They just sold Iliman Ndiaye and Sander Berge, their 2 best players. And I don't think they have any chance of survival at all. So I think they're going to be pretty comfortably the last place team in the league. They do have some decent FPL picks though still. They have obviously George Baldock, who is a 4.0 defender. He plays as a wingback. He could get some attacking returns, but most likely they're going to concede and lose most matches. So yeah, he's not the best pick, but seeing as he is 4.0 only, he's the cheapest you can get, so that's not too bad. You have also Anel Ahmedhodzic. If Sheffield United for some reason turn out to be decent defensively, then Ahmedhodzic might be worth the 0.5 upgrade because he's such a good header of the ball as well. He can score goals. He had 5 goals I think last season in the Championship, but he also gets a lot of yellow cards. That could lead to suspensions. That could lead to less bonus points. That could lead to less points because you get -1 for yellow card. So not the best. Finally, we have Benny Traore, who was fantastic in Allsvenskan, which is the Swedish league, but it's going to be a step up for him to go to the Premier League. But seeing as he is like the main striker now, they have only like youngsters and McBurney as potential other strikers. He's going to be the main striker for Sheffield United, potentially even taking penalties, maybe. So yeah, I think he is also a decent option. But yeah, stay away from Sheffield United in general because I think they are pretty terrible this season. Number 19, I have Wolverhampton. They obviously just changed their manager, Gary O'Neill. I like him, but I don't think he's that good. I think Bournemouth are a pretty good team. That will be shown in this table prediction. But yeah, Wolves, sadly, I think they're going to go down. They have a couple of players that I really like, as you can see from the screen here. I'm a West Ham fan, so Ballon Dawson, as we call him, or Dawson, who plays as a centre-back for Wolves. I think he is a decent option defensively. If Wolverhampton are keeping some clean sheets, he's probably going to get some bonus points. He is also a pretty good header of the ball. He's usually been like a decent FPL pick whenever he's played for a good defense. So yeah, he could become a good option. Neto, he's famously one of the players that burnt me last season for 5.5, but I still think he has so much talent. If he is back from his injuries finally, he could be really good. And then thirdly, we have Matheus Cunha, who back in the day at least used to be like a huge talent. Like he was pretty highly sought after among like big teams. He went to Atletico Madrid obviously, and then started off pretty well with Atletico Madrid, but then it's kind of tapered off and then didn't have like that impressive of a season in the Premier League. But he has a lot of talent, so I really like all 3 of these players. And yeah, I really like a couple of the players for Wolverhampton, but all the turmoil, all the sales, Ruben Neves, a lot of important players had left Wolverhampton. I just don't see them staying up this season. So that leads me to Luton, who I have 18th, which is higher than most people, but I think it's kind of going to be like a Blackpool sort of season for them, where they are just happy to be there. They're going to give it their all. They have a really special home stadium. They haven't been in the top flight for like 30 years, pretty much since I was born, which is a long time ago. So, but yeah, I think Luton will be like kind of frisky a little bit at least. I think they made some decent signings. One of them is Kabore, who I think is the best option for them. 4.0 defender, wingback again, like Baldock, but I think he plays for a better team, and I think he is also more offensively sound than Baldock. He doesn't have the same as good fixtures at the start of the season, though, so maybe Baldock is a better pick for you in Game Week 1, but Kabore is probably a better pick over the long haul. But another reason why I have Luton 18th and not all the way down at the bottom is that I really like the strikers. I think Carlton Morris and I'm blanking on the other guy's name, of course. But yeah, they have a really good striker partnership. So yeah, I think there are going to be Elijah Adebayo, of course, is the striker next to Carlton Morris. So yeah, those 2 guys are really good. They've played together quite a bit. And yeah, I think they can both be pretty good this season. And then finally, 3rd pick, Mpanzu, or as I know him, Pelle Rodok, who joined West Ham like 12, 13, 14 years ago. As a youngster, a really promising youngster. I noticed his name back then, and it's really fun to see that he's gone all the way from non-league to the Premier League. So he's not a good fantasy Premier League option, but I just wanted to mention him because I really like that story and like the fact that he has a West Ham connection as well. Fulham, 17th. I think they are sort of interchangeable with Wolverhampton. There's a lot of turmoil with Fulham. We don't really know if Mitrovic is going to stay. We don't know if Willian is going to stay. Personally, I don't think Willian is that big of a loss if he leaves, because like 2 or 3 seasons ago, he was kind of looked at as like washed and like finished at the top flight, but he had a really good season last year, so maybe he will be a big loss. Mitrovic would be a fantastic, or not fantastic, he would be the opposite of fantastic for Fulham, but he would be a terrible loss for them. if he leaves for Saudi Arabia. So who knows really with Fulham. It's hard to predict, but I have them 17th. It could be a bit higher, it could be a bit lower, depending on the Mitrovic situation. But yeah, I think these picks, Mitrovic could potentially be a really good pick for 7.5. He's proven that in the past that that's not the worst price point for him. And Andreas Pereira as well. I think he'd be much more talked about if it didn't come from a 4.5 season last year. He was only worth 4.5 last season. So now he's sort of like not as valuable as was last season, but he was really valuable last season, and he's still on free kicks, potentially on pens if Mitrovic leaves, even if Mitrovic doesn't leave, because Mitrovic is pretty terrible on pens. So I think Andreas is actually a better pick than what people gave him credit for. So yeah, look out for him as well. 16th, I have Nottingham Forest. Again, surviving, and most of that is due to Gibbs White, I think. He is one of the best young attacking midfielders in the whole league. He was fantastic in the under-21 Euros as well. And yeah, he's going to lead Nottingham Forest to safety once again. So he also has a really good partnership with Taiwo Avoni, who's the second pick for me. I think both those guys, as I showed towards the end of last season, they can be a really good duo to have at some point if Nottingham Forest have good fixtures. They obviously don't have the best fixtures from the start of the season, but yeah, I think those two are pretty good FPL picks. And then Matt Turner is a starting 4.0 goalkeeper most likely, unless they get Dean Henderson. So that's the best you can get from a backup goalkeeper, really, especially at this moment of time. Unless Man City, for some reason, start using Ortega rather than Ederson, then Turner would be a really good pick for 4.0 as a goalkeeper. 15th, I have Burnley, and I think Burnley will be decently happy with that, survival at least. After you're going up, it's the number one priority, and I think Burnley will be pretty happy with that. They have Vincent Kompany. They play a completely different style than what they did when they were last in the Premier League. And when they finished last in the Premier League, almost when they went down last time with Sean Dyche for most of the season. But yeah, they have some decent FPL options as well. You have Jordan Beyer, who's another 4.0 defender you can target. He doesn't score that many goals, but he's like the most nailed defender for Burnley, apart from maybe Connor Roberts. But he's going to play pretty much every single game for 4.0, so he's going to be pretty good eventually as well when they get better fixtures. Anas Sarori at left wing. 5.0, he's like 21 years old. He can still improve. He was fantastic last season in the Championship. He could also blossom in the Premier League, so I think he potentially could be a steal eventually, especially if Burnley are even better than I project them to be, because I know some people have them like closer to 10th sometimes, but yeah, I think they'll survive pretty comfortably. I think like there's from 16 to 20 will be pretty much like a bottom tier with Forest until Sheffield United, where all those teams could be interchangeable really, apart from maybe Sheffield United, who are going to be relegated most likely. But yeah, Burnley, quite like them. They obviously just signed Sander Berge. Speaking of Sheffield United, they signed one of the best players from Sheffield United, and if he gets a license to go forward, he is also not the worst pick for 5.0. I think Sarori is going to be a better pick though. Also, a little shout out to Seki Amdoni, who's the striker for Burnley. He might be on penalties, and he's only 5.5, so he could also be a decent option, but I'm only going to list 3 here, so I wanted to mention Sander Berge because he's Norwegian like me, so I have a close connection to him at least. So yeah. 14th, we have Everton. A lot of people think that this might be their turn to go down, but I feel like Everton are actually doing some decent signings, and one of them is Arnaut Danjuma, who recently helped Villarreal reach, was it semi-final or quarterfinal? Semi-final, I think, against Liverpool in the Champions League. He scored 6 goals in the Champions League, and he is a fantastic player and is going to be a fantastic pick in FPL eventually if he gets back to full fitness and if he plays regularly for Everton, especially if he plays as a striker, because we know Calvert-Lewin is most likely going to get injured, so I really like him as well. Jared Branthwaite, I think he should be the starting defender for Everton, but it could be Godfrey, it could be Michael Keane, but I think Branthwaite has the best potential out of all of them, especially with Godfrey's injury issues and Michael Keane's footballing ability issues. So I think Branthwaite is going to be the partner next to Tarkowski, and for 0.5 cheaper, I think Branthwaite is going to offer the exact same thing that Tarkowski is in terms of offensive output, because Branthwaite is really good at set pieces as well, or scoring from set pieces. So yeah, I think if he starts, he's going to be the second best pick. If he doesn't start, then obviously you don't have to pick him, but he's only 4.0 anyway, so it doesn't really cost you anything if you have him and he's not playing. 13th, I have my own team, West Ham. Pretty unsure about the season. Obviously, Declan Rice has been sold. There's a lot of changes coming for West Ham. Paqueta might even be sold as well. I have him as a my number one valued player for West Ham, because I think he's going to be having a fantastic season, which is evidenced by the fact that Man City might be able to, or might be willing to offer £80 million for Paqueta as well, which is quite a lot of money, but he's so talented. So for 6.0, even if he stays at West Ham, I think he's going to be a fantastic option. If he moves to Man City for 6.0, playing as like an attacking mid there, he is nailed. He's going to be in every single squad. So yeah. Jared Bowen, obviously, of course, he is going to be nailed for West Ham. Going to be a fantastic player. 2 seasons ago, he scored 200 plus points, 206 points, I think. So yeah, if he gets anywhere close to that, he's well worth the 7.0. And I think he's going to be having a much better season than last year. He's going to have to step up as like one of the main men on the team. Obviously, with Declan Rice leaving, he's going to be one of the more like senior players with West Ham, and he is a really good player. Obviously, scored a winning goal in the final. I'll forever be happy with him for that. So I think Bowen is has a really good chance of being a great player this season, even for 7.0, which might be a bit too expensive, but eventually when West Ham's fixture come good, he's going to be a decent option. And finally, we have Emerson Palmieri. He's going to be the starting left back for West Ham. Cresswell is about to leave, it seems like, after 11 years at the club. And Emerson is actually taking quite a lot of set pieces, so he has a couple of assists in preseason. I think he's going to be a pretty good pick eventually going forward. Obviously, 4.5 is the same price point that Harry Maguire is, and Maguire is most likely joining West Ham, so he could potentially be better than Emerson as well. And with Ward-Prowse joining, it's probably going to be Ward-Prowse rather than Emerson on set pieces. So maybe this changes, but as of this recording, Maguire and Ward-Prowse are not fully confirmed. I think Ward-Prowse got the here we go. Yeah, he got the here we go. So he's probably confirmed, but I still think Emerson is decent value for only 4.5. 12th, we have Bournemouth, which is much higher than most people because I really like Bournemouth. I like their players. I like these players that you see here. Dango Ouattara, I think he's going to have a fantastic season as well. He is a young up-and-coming talent. Only 5.0, which is kind of crazy, but Bournemouth have so many good wingers. Like they have Dango, they have Tavernier, who I have as the second best pick. They have Brooks, who I might have put here as well. And they also have Cloyford at left wing as well. So they have like 4 really good wingers. So it just remains to be seen who's going to play the most out of all of them. But they also have Kirkis, the new left back for them. Pretty offensive-minded left back, scored 3 goals in the Eredivisie last season. I think he's also a decent pick if Bournemouth are good defensively. But I think offensively at least, and under the new manager, Iraola, which is the main reason I have them 12th, I think Bournemouth will be a fun team to watch this season. I think they're going to have a fun play style and a lot of fun, exciting young wingers. And I think Tavernier especially, he's going to have this run of like 4 or 5 game weeks in a row where he scores like 12 points, 8 points, 20 points all of a sudden. He's going to be a commodity at some point this season, I think, even for 5.5, which is a bit more than the other wingers. But that's because he proved it last season that he had a couple of those runs where he scored a lot of goals. But obviously, injury issues and form is going to play into Tavernier's value as well. But at some point, he's going to be super valuable. Next up, we have Crystal Palace. Eberechi Eze, clear number 1 for me. I think he's going to be one of the best value players in the whole game this season. 6.5 is completely like way too little for Eze. He should be at least 7.0 or potentially even 7.5. But he does play for Crystal Palace, so who knows really. But under Hodgson, he was amazing, like one of the best players to have in FPL. And I think that's going to be the case this season as well. He is firmly in consideration for me in my Game Week 1 squad as well, even though they don't have the best fixtures to start the season. They have 3 away fixtures in the first 4, so... But I still think he's a good option. Johnston as well on goal might be my goalkeeper option. It says defender there. Sorry about that. There's some issues with the graphics. I'm going to fix that in post as well. I got to remember to not mention the faults because I can just edit it afterwards. But either way, that's the beauty of content creation, I guess. But he's a goalkeeper. He's not a 4.5 defender, Johnston. But he is potentially my favorite 4.5 goalkeeper as well. So I might go with him. I'm currently on Onana, but I think Johnston is someone that I'm really considering. Then we have Michael Olise as well. He's 0.5 less than Eze, and that might be fantastic value as well. He is obviously linked with Chelsea and Man City, so there's a lot of things to be excited about with Olise. He takes some set pieces as well. When he's back from injury, he might have like that proper breakout season. He had a couple of games last season. I think he had like 3 assists against, was it Fulham or something, last season under Hodgson. So he has all the talent in the world as well. So I really like the Crystal Palace options, especially Johnston in goal, not in defense. Moving on, number 10, we have Brentford, and Brian Mbeumo is my favorite option with Tony out, but you can see Tony there as number 2. Obviously, this is not a Game Week 1 value sort of projection because Tony doesn't play until the new year, but I think especially in January, February, when Tony comes back, I think it's like late January, that's also around the time where it's going to be the African Cup of Nations, where there's a high likelihood that both Mbeumo and Wissa will be leaving for the African Cup of Nations. At that point, everyone is going to get Tony because he's going to be a fantastic value for 8.0. He is the best 8.0 striker out of all the potential 8.0 strikers. I think. Like, he would go to Arsenal and strengthen them over Jesus. He's better than Watkins, and who's the other one? Callum Wilson. He's also better than Callum Wilson. So for 8.0, being the focal point of attack for Brentford, I think he's going to be fantastic value when he comes back. But obviously, it's only half a season's worth of value. While Mbeumo is going to play the whole season and be fantastic once again, because he can reach double-digit assists and double-digit goals in a season. So 6.5 for Mbeumo is great value. In goal, also again, Flecken 4.5. He's going to be the starting goalkeeper for Brentford. The starting goalkeeper for Brentford last season for 4.5. David Raya was the best value player in the game. So once again, he is great value. Flecken was fantastic in Bundesliga last season. He has been kind of shaky in preseason, but like Thomas Frank is saying, he needs a bit of time to get used to everything else, everything new. We all remember David De Gea when he joined Man United. Wasn't the best goalkeeper, but eventually he became the best in the world at some point. So I don't think Flecken will be the best goalkeeper in the world, but for Brentford, he is more than good enough to save all the shots that they'll get on target against them. Moving on, we have Brighton, number 9. This is where we get into like the business end of the table, because Brighton are a fantastic team, and having them 9th tells you something about the strength of the Premier League currently. Like, the Premier League is much better, probably the best that it has ever been in terms of just like the depth of players. We saw Paqueta with West Ham at 13th place. They finished West Ham finished 15th, 16th. I say they when I say something negative about them, and I say we when I say something positive about them. That's the nature of a fan. But anyways, the Premier League is just fantastic currently. It's so much better than it was 10 years ago. So that's something we're going to talk about with the next team that I have in the list. But Persis Stepinian, one of the best value players in the game, 5.0. He should have been 5.5, definitely. Not 6.0, but 5.5 would have been a fair price for him. And yeah, he's going to be so attacking. Brighton might get clean sheets. He's fantastic. Joao Pedro I really like as well. He's going to be on penalties most likely, or pretty much 100% he's going to be on penalties, or 90% he's going to be on penalties. And he's going to play a lot of matches as well, either as a forward or as an attacking mid. I know Enciso and Ferguson are going to get into the squad eventually, but I think Pedro is going to play quite a lot of matches and quite a lot of minutes as well. He's not going to be subbed off at 60 every time, because he can move to the right wing, he can move to the forward spot, he can move all around the pitch. You don't have to sub him out because he can play more than one position. So even if they get someone into his position, if Enciso comes in, Pedro can just move to another position. If Ferguson comes in, he can move to another position again. So I think he's really versatile. Mitoma as well. You shouldn't really undersell how good Mitoma is. He's also been linked with Man City. I know sort of we're in terms of like the hype train, like it's been like up here since he like started breaking out into the team, and then during this preseason the hype has sort of died down a bit. But I don't think we should undervalue Mitoma either. For 6.5, he is going to have some runs this season. He's going to be owned at some point this season for most of us, I think. So yeah, I think Mitoma is really good value as well. Number 8, I have Chelsea. I've seen a lot of people have Chelsea much higher. I think the guys from Tifo, which is a fantastic YouTube channel, by the way, you should check them out. I think they had like Chelsea around like 2nd or 3rd, and I'm like, what are people thinking with Chelsea? Like, I don't understand it with the squad. Obviously, I have listed some players that I really like, but I think the injury to Nkunku especially is going to hurt them a lot, and they already don't have the best squad. Like, they have Gallagher and Chukwuemeka currently as their starting midfield with Enzo Fernandez. They are potentially getting Romeo Lavia or Caicedo. That would help a lot. Obviously, they have some injury issues as well, and they're going to get some injury issues on the fullback positions. But yeah, I don't think their squad is the best. They have a lot of young, exciting players. They have Pochettino, who I really like. But I think, especially with the strength of the Premier League, all the teams above them are really good. I think they won't be as good, but it's going to be a nice like stepping stone for the next few seasons with the young players that they have. So I think Chelsea, eventually they'll become really good under Pochettino, but this season I think it's a bit too early to have them like 4th or 5th or higher, personally. But yeah, as far as the FPL options go, Chilwell, obviously super attacking. He is currently a template player. He's currently in my team as well. I think he's fantastic value. Nick Jackson, assuming no other striker comes in, it seems like the Vlahovic rumors are dying down a bit now, so maybe Nick Jackson is going to be the starting striker, and he is a fantastic player. Like, I really like Nick Jackson. I think he should be given the starting role for Chelsea as a starting striker for them. He could be like their striker for the next 10, 12 plus years. So he is a fantastic player, really unselfish. He impressed a lot in preseason. He impressed a lot last season for Villarreal as well, so he's a fantastic pick. Finally, we have Mudryk, who I'm also a huge fan of. Like, I was really disappointed to see how he performed in the Premier League last season. Really exciting debut against Liverpool, and then after that it's just completely died down. But Mudryk has all the talent in the world, and just like the other people I've talked about, they need some time to get used to the league. So don't say that Mudryk is like a terrible player, should play for Crystal Palace at most. Like, he is much better than that, and he's going to prove it at some point this season. Maybe not from the start, but eventually he's going to be fantastic. And for 6.5, I think that's great value. He could potentially destroy that price point completely and be like 9.0 potentially even next season if he really blossoms. Next up, we have Spurs, and I think, again, Spurs, they have a new manager, Postecoglou. I think he's going to be getting them into good positions eventually. I think they'll have a bit of a tough start to the season, but I still think they can scrape 7. They are kind of like between that 10 and 7 range. I don't think they're going to be much higher than that, but I think eventually they're going to be really good. Also, obviously, at the time of this recording, Harry Kane, Tottenham have just accepted the bid for Harry Kane, but Kane has to decide still if he wants to leave or stay. That's going to obviously affect these rankings, but I think with or without Kane, they're going to be in that like as high as potentially number 5 or 4 if Kane stays, and then as low as potentially 10th. I can't see them finishing less than 10th, even if Kane leaves. But yeah, Maddison, 7.5. Whether Kane stays or goes, he's going to be a great pick. He's been fantastic in preseason, takes some set pieces, and he's always a good value in FPL. Destiny Udogie, he's one of my personal favorites. I've mentioned him throughout this preseason as someone you need to have because he's going to be nailed in the team. I don't really understand why people have doubts about that. This might come back to bite me in the ass if all of a sudden Reguilon starts playing regularly or something, or potentially if they buy a new left back. But Udogie has all the talent in the world, and he's super offensive, perfectly fits Postecoglou's system, and 4.5, I think he's a steal and great value. And then finally, third, I have Son. Could have been Kane if Kane was set to stay, but I think Son as well for 3.5 million less than Kane when he was priced higher than Kane last season. It tells you something about the potential for Son as well. He has been fantastic in the past. He obviously had some hamstring injuries last season that hampered him a bit. So I think Son could easily be number 1 in the Spurs list as well. He could easily be one of the players of the season and be like part of the best value players. He has that talent. He's proven that in the past. Former Golden Boot winner in the Premier League. All the talent in the world. It's just in preseason, it has looked like he's sort of like more off to the side, and Maddison has been more the central point. So that's why I have Maddison slightly above Son currently. But that could change in the season because previously for Postecoglou, the wingers have been pretty good in terms of offensive output. So I think Son is definitely someone you should keep in mind and consider at least. Number 6, we have Newcastle. A bit of a drop since last season. They had fourth place last season, and like many other people have said, they're going to be affected by the Champions League. It's going to be a lot more matches to play. It's going to affect them in the league, but they still have a really good team. Number 1 value for them, I have Alexander Isak, and I know Callum Wilson at some point will get injured. It happens every single season, and when Wilson gets injured, I'm going to get Isak straight away because for 7.5, if he is the starting striker every single week, we haven't really seen that for that extended amount of time yet for Newcastle, but if he gets to play like 10 game weeks in a row as the striker for Newcastle, he's going to produce a lot of points for 7.5, so he's going to be straight into my team when Wilson gets injured at some point. Second, we have Trippier, who was obviously the best value player potentially even in the whole game apart from Haaland last season. He's gotten a price rise to 6.5. I still think he's great value. At some point Newcastle will get like a couple of matches in a row where they have really good chances of getting clean sheets. Trippier is still going to be the focal point in terms of creating chances and stuff. So at some point he's going to be worth that 6.5 million, even though not that many people have him already from the start of the season. Then we have Harvey Barnes for 6.5. Again, like Maddison joining from Leicester. He's also a great player. He could potentially also blossom even more. I think he has a lot of unreleased potential, but at the same time he scored 10 plus goals I think last season. So I think if he starts on the left wing regularly for Newcastle, he should be really good. But obviously Isak could play on left wing because Wilson is a striker, and you also have Gordon, and you have a couple other players as well that can play on the left, Joe Linton for example. So yeah, Barnes is a bit risky sort of if he doesn't play regularly, of course, but if he plays regularly, I think he's going to be great value as well in FPL. Next up we have, again, one of my like surprise teams, I guess, number 5, Aston Villa. I think that's pretty high compared to what most people do, but I think their signings have been so good. They have Unai Emery, who's one of the best managers in the world. Like, I know he had like a terrible stint at Arsenal. He wasn't that impressive with PSG at some points. But, even though he got a lot of points in total for PSG, and won like the domestic treble, I think, as well. But I think he's a great manager. I think Aston Villa's signings have been fantastic. Diaby, number 1, the main guy among them, 6.5. I think he's going to be worth much more than 6.5 eventually in the season. Alex Moreno, who proved his worth last season, 5.0, I think is going to be fantastic eventually as well. And also Jacob Ramsey is going to finally take that step up and be that England international level player that he has the potential to be. So they have so many good players. Watkins, obviously, I should mention him as well, even though he's not among my top 3 value players. I really like Watkins. He's a solid striker. I think he's going to help them as well. And Pau Torres, the new signing they have as a centre-back, Tielemans in midfield. Douglas Luiz is fantastic if they keep Douglas Luiz. If they don't keep Douglas Luiz, they're going to drop a couple spots in the table. But I think Aston Villa have all the makings of going higher up in the table than they were last season. And especially after Emery took over last season, they were like among the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. So I think 5th isn't too far off, and that would help them get Champions League most likely, because depending on the UEFA coefficients and stuff, 5th place now, because the Champions League is extending or expanding, I think, to 36 teams instead of 32. So Premier League will get another spot in it if they are among the top 2 leagues in the world, which there most likely will be. So yeah, I think this will be enough for Champions League for Aston Villa, which would be huge for them. I think they have a really good foundation. They're obviously a huge club from before, and I think they have everything going for them at the moment. 4th, we have Liverpool. This is also a team that I think actually there's like, it's going to be like a pretty tight like top 4 battle, I think, this season, which is kind of crazy to say, I guess. But Liverpool obviously have proven in the past that they have the championship pedigree, that they can be Premier League champions. And I think everyone in the top 4 has the potential to be Premier League champions. I'm going to get to Man City eventually, the reigning champions. But yeah, Liverpool, they are fixing the one big issue that they had last season, that is the midfield. Obviously, they've sold a lot of players. They don't have that defensive midfielder yet, as of this recording at least. But now they're in for Caicedo, apparently. They might get Romeo Lavia instead. They're going to get one like number 6 player eventually. And when they do, they'll have a much improved midfield in the Premier League, because I think last season my sort of like hot take was that Liverpool had like, there were 35 midfielders that could go straight into and be the best midfielder for Liverpool in the Premier League, and one of them actually joined Liverpool, like Alexis McAllister, and then Szoboszlai has joined. If they get another one in Lavia or Caicedo, they're going to have a fantastic midfield. And we know the backline is the same that they conceded 22 goals in one season with Trent at right back, which is crazy, and people don't really talk about that. But they have Alisson in goal, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Van Dijk, obviously not the same level that he used to be, but they have Konate, who's better than anyone they had next to Van Dijk at any point during his prime. Robertson is still fantastic, even though he doesn't really fit his new role and stuff. And offensively, they have Mohamed Salah, who I have as the most valued player here, and they have Darwin and Diogo Jota and all those guys, as you can see here. So they have so much value in the squad. So 4th might be a bit low, to be honest, but I think Liverpool, even though I have them 4th, which is lower than most because people have them usually 3rd or 2nd, even though I have them 4th, I actually have a lot of faith in Liverpool, and I think the top 4 is going to be like a proper top 4 this season. But yeah, speaking of just Darwin and Diogo Jota as well, I think Darwin, the reason that I have him valued number 2, it's because I think, like with everyone else, if Kakpo gets injured or something, or if Darwin all of a sudden plays well and gets an extended run in the team, I think he's going to be fantastic value. I think he's going to score more goals than last season compared to like his conversion rate and stuff. He's going to be more efficient this season. So at some point, Darwin is going to be essential if you don't like that word. Diogo Jota as well, I think he could be one of the bandwagons in Game Week 3 or Game Week 4. I think he is going to play quite a bit for Liverpool. He has shown in the past that he has everything capable. He's super capable to be a fantastic option in FPL, so he's also a great value pick. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Trent Alexander-Arnold. I still think he is a decent option. I still think I'm going to have Trent at some point this season. But for 8.0 as a defender, when you have so many value players in defense, I don't think he's as valuable as the attacking Liverpool players who are going to get a lot of points at some point. 3rd, I have Man United. I mentioned I might have Liverpool 3rd and Man United 4th. It's pretty close. I do like Man United's project though under Ten Hag. Huge fan of Ten Hag and the way he's going to be able to play football now with Onana in goal. They're making some nice signings. Højlund as well. It's going to need a bit of time, Højlund. I think if Højlund was slightly further along, Man United could actually finish number 1. They can potentially, if Højlund all of a sudden blossoms like perfectly and Rashford is still good and Bruno Fernandes is better than ever. But yeah, I think Man United will be in that 2nd place to 4th place spot. So even though I have Liverpool below Man United, I think Liverpool have a better chance of winning the league than Man United, which I guess doesn't make sense intuitively, but yeah. Anyways, I think Man United are onto something with Ten Hag. Have a really good squad. Obviously, Rashford and Fernandes, don't really have to say much about them because they are fantastic picks. I think Rashford is more valuable than Bruno Fernandes. He showed that last season. He got more points per match. He got more points in total. Pretty much everything counts for Rashford's in Rashford's favor. But, penalties. Bruno Fernandes might get more penalties this season. Who knows? That's a variable we don't really know about. That is also pretty much down to luck, I think. Obviously, Man United had a couple of seasons back where they got like 10, 11 penalties per season, and that's not the norm. Usually you get like 4 to 6 penalties-ish on average in the Premier League. So, but yeah, I think Rashford is more the focal point of attack. I also really like Onana. I think he's currently in my squad as the 5.0 goalkeeper, so I think he is also really good value pick. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with him or a 4.5 goalkeeper yet, though, because of that 0.5 swing, and goalkeepers aren't really like the most like super high ceiling position. But with Onana, that might change because Onana might get some assists, he might get some saves and some bonus points from the passing that he's going to do. So I think he's great value as well. And then we come to the top two, and this is where it gets even more controversial, I guess, because yes, I have Man City as the second place team. Obviously, Man City are fantastic. They obviously just won the treble, one of the greatest teams of all time, won the treble. But I think that's sort of why also they might not win the league this season. Obviously, no one has ever won 4 Premier Leagues in a row, but I think that argument is kind of faulty because the difficult thing about winning Premier League 4 times in a row is winning the 3 times to get to the 4th time to win it, if that makes sense. The hard part about winning 4 in a row is winning 3 in a row first, but now they're pretty far along the way to 4 in a row. But I think with the sales of Gundogan and Mahrez, those are pretty huge sales, and even if they get someone like Paqueta in, it's still going to be difficult to get them properly into the team. We've seen that with Pep. It takes a season or 2 for guys like Grealish and potentially Calvin Phillips to get into the squad. So I think it's going to be a bit more troublesome offensively for City this year, but they have fantastic players. Obviously, Haaland still going to be fantastic, still going to score probably 30 plus goals. De Bruyne is still going to get 15-ish assists, most likely. So I think those two are really high-value players. I don't really see any other midfielders currently at the moment. Foden is sort of in and out of the team. Paqueta hasn't joined yet, if he joins at all. And Bernardo Silva is not that good value. Grealish is kind of meh value. So I think De Bruyne is going to be the best value, or the second highest value offensive player, of course, behind Haaland. But defensively, I think Guardiola has come in for a record signing almost. I think he is the second highest. I think the price for him was the second highest of all time in the Premier League for a defender. And he's well worth it. He's 21 years old. He's already one of the best centre-backs in the world. And he's going to suit Pep Guardiola's playing style perfectly as well. So I think defensively, City might be even better than last season. And hopefully they are, because they didn't keep that many clean sheets last season. But offensively, I think they're going to struggle a bit without Gundogan, without Mahrez, who have been so big in such huge moments. So that leaves us with number 1, and that is going to be Arsenal, I think. And I sort of have to back them because I'm such a huge fan of Declan Rice. I'm a West Ham fan. I'm still a huge fan of Declan Rice. I know a lot of West Ham fans are like, oh, we went to Arsenal, haven't won a league in the 20 years. But he's a championship or champion winning player. He's a championship winning player. Doesn't win the championship, the second division, but he wins the championship in the Premier League. He's proven that in the Conference League. He is a trophy winning player. He won the Community Shield, trophy winning player, of course. Obviously being a bit facetious here because I'm a huge Rice fan. But yeah, Declan Rice, Timber as well is a great signing. Havertz, maybe not so much, but he doesn't have to be that great of a signing because Arsenal already have a fantastic team. They just need that squad depth. That's what they didn't have last season, where they kind of faltered towards the end, and especially with Saliba going down with an injury, they struggled a bit. I still think they need a proper number 9 fantastic striker. I think Gabriel Jesus is great, but I don't think he's Premier League winning side every single season great. So that's why City kind of sold him and didn't use him as a striker mostly. But yeah, in terms of FPL picks, Bukayo Saka 8.5. He's only still 21. He's going to improve even more. Fantastic. He's on penalties. He is nailed. Plays for what I think is the best team in the league. So yeah, he's the best value. Gabriel Magalhaes still as well. Arsenal's defense is going to be even better than last season. Gabriel is priced the same, 5.0. He can get even more goals than he has had the last couple seasons. He always has really good expected goal numbers. And then finally, I have Martinelli as the third best pick. I think he's still going to be pretty nailed. Still going to get a lot of goals. Have some really explosive game weeks with 20 plus points, which he has shown in the past. So yeah, I think Arsenal have so many good attacking talents. They have so many good defensive talents, and yeah, I think they'll only improve under Arteta. and all that stuff. They played in the Europa League last season, so they did have some fixture congestion. So the change from Europa League to Champions League will be a bit more because they're obviously going to have to use their best 11 more in the Champions League. But at the same time, they have a stronger squad now. They have Fabio Vieira, who doesn't get to play at all. He's a fantastic player. I'm really happy he scored a winning penalty, actually, in the Community Shield. But yeah, Arsenal have a really good squad. They have Declan Rice, championship winning player, and that's why I think they're going to be Premier League champions this season, just slightly above City. And United and Liverpool could even challenge them as well for number one. I think it's going to be a really fun season, especially at the top of the table. So yeah, it's really exciting to watch. I think it's going to be a fantastic FPL season as well. Really excited about the season, really excited about trying to grow this channel and trying to get more of you guys to watch and improve the channel as well. I have so many things I want to improve on. So yeah, but stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video and comment down below if you have any disagreements with me in terms of FPL picks or in terms of the table prediction. And yeah, I'll see you around next time. So thank you and goodbye.